Welcome to Enlightened AF. I'm Tricia Carr.
And I'm Aidan Demarest.
And we're going to have a lot of fun today. It's just Aidan and me, and I'm wearing really stupid looking headphones.
They are super cool. I like how that's like shaping your head perfectly.
They look like the cosmic Teletubby.
No, it's super Star Trek. You're looking killer. Like we just got beamed here.
I'm going to be taking them off in a second, but I just had to start to make sure that everything sounded okay.
It sounds good, right?
It's so weird to me to not have monitors on while I'm podcasting, so it's really weird.
You need it.
Yeah.
I feel you need it. Plus, you can't hear the music.
Yeah, that's right. By the way, the music is composed by my amazing husband, Brian Carr.
Brian.
Brian Carr. I'm laughing because Kurt is putting up Teletubbies. Is there a cosmic Teletubby?
Oh, yes.
I'll try and find one.
Yeah, try to find a silver.
Mushrooms. That whole show is just built on mushrooms.
I love the Teletubbies. Sure. And so I am a childless woman, and in my 20s, they were really popular, and I watched them even though I don't have children. And one time I was serving in a restaurant, and a little baby dropped their Teletubby toy, and I picked it up and I gave it to the baby, and I said, "Oh, you dropped Lala." And the mom's like, "Oh, do your kids watch Teletubbies too?" And I was like, "No."
Yeah, no.
And she was like, snatched the toy.
She's like, that's weird. I think it was.
I knew the name of the Teletubby.
I don't think my kids were ever into it. I don't remember watching that, but maybe the oldest one. When was the years on that?
That would have been the 90s, like the late 90s, I think, is when they kind of started.
This is a perfect segue into our topic for the show. Did you do this on purpose?
Always.
Because you know what I'm going to hit on this, right? That there's a character on it that they considered very...
effeminate.
Not just effeminate, but like they couldn't figure out. He was just a non-denominational.
That's
sort
Dipsy. Yeah.
Yeah. Right on. So what's the topic of our show today?
Well, our show is balancing masculine and feminine, but we're actually
Has nothing to do with that, but still.
No, right, because we're actually not talking about gender or sexuality today when we're talking about masculine and feminine. And actually, I think that is appropriate because Dipsy, the purple Teletubby.
You're really going to have to reach here, folks. You don't have to know this one. We will not reference the show again, I swear.
Yeah, Kurt, you got Dipsy there? Yeah. So Dipsy was the really large one, and he had a triangle on his head, and he carried a handbag. And he had a deeper voice, as though he were masculine.
There were some of there was anti-gays that were like the boycotting the show.
It's a gay
their
Teletubby.
Kid would become gay if they watched a Teletubby.
Exactly. I'm like,
any of them had sex with anything.
No, right.
They were just orbs.
They're just weird shaped.
They were genital-free orbs.
They're not even like really that humanoid. They're just really, they're really strange looking. But I think that Dipsy actually had balanced masculine and feminine. He wasn't sexual. These little... they're supposed to appeal to like 3-year-olds, so there wasn't anything sexual about it. Yes, exactly. So Dipsy was very balanced in his masculine and feminine because he was kind of big and he had a deep voice, Dipsy, and then he was purple and he carried a little handbag. I thought that was nice. The handbags are handy.
I like that. Well, what the discussion what it is like not necessarily sexuality or in terms of masculine and feminine,
or even gender,
balancing it, right? Yeah. Or gender. But more like balancing it, like there's moments in everyone's day where you're sort of balancing it, and like what we were talking about, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, as we're talking about masculine and feminine in the aspect of like yin and yang, or as an assertive and passive.
Right.
And so that's how we can really observe that everyone is using a mix of those energies, and that's I think that's this sort of more current. Counterbalance to, I would say, the patriarchy and using this new label of toxic masculinity, and that again putting aside gender and putting aside sexuality, toxic masculinity I think is when people are being too assertive, to where it's a kind of narcissism, but not necessarily about narcissism, but it's like overriding everyone else's, not being able to receive anything, just speaking over, behaving over, and acting over absolutely everything, like not bringing in your energy so that you can have exchange. That would be toxic masculinity, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I guess toxic femininity would be never contributing. You know what I mean? Like always just like a black hole, just receiving. There's someone that you've introduced me to that sounds like.
God. Both of those scenarios or just one? Oh, I feel like I've dated both of those things. There's the bummer.
That's why you became fluid in your sexuality. You're like, I got to find somebody that's got a little less or a little more of all of it.
Yeah, how about a little? But yeah, okay, yeah, I understand that. It sucks that the mass. Well, neither of those. I mean, then obviously that's the toxic version of both, because the not toxic, the positive version of both,
balanced,
the balance, or the positive. Even if I wouldn't even say balance. Like, what's the positive? If it was like a toxic masculinity that is, overriding everything and receiving nothing and dominating, putting their will on everything.
Yes, that's.
But what is a positive masculinity not balanced? Meaning like just a ton of caretaking and sort of providing and.
Yeah, it could be that. It could be also just.
The positive side of that. Obviously, balance is the goal.
Yeah, I mean, it could also just be expression. I mean, expression is a way of asserting yourself, right?
Yeah.
So that's a more delicate version of the masculine or yang energy, perhaps, is just expression, which could be creative or mental or anything along those lines, because that's a contribution. And doing it with confidence. So confidence is a kind of positive masculinity. It is a presence that is offering, an offering kind of presence, I would say.
I think that's interesting because I have two sons, obviously, and navigating that is harder than navigating having a daughter. I don't know, same-sex children. You sort of you're trying to figure out what to do, and there's a little pressure off of you with your opposite-sex children.
They reflect, the same-sex seem to reflect more of your
worst behaviors. And my father's and so on and so on, and or they're clear to you. And there's no way you can be like, who did that? Where did that kid get that?
Yeah, exactly.
Like everybody's like, and he's got your face and saying the same shit you do with the same little inflammation thing. You're like, fuck you too. And you're like, what happened there? Like nobody ever buys that. Anyway, the number one, the interesting thing of in my journey and like trying to like figure out what that equal balance is. Never mind, like just what that equal balance is, so that I can present that in the best case scenario for my kids, but also in life. Like I have definitely been both of those things that you described, the toxic versions, where I was taking everything in a relationship or in a work situation, whatever, or I was dominating the whole situation. But I would say that out of the two, the more fearful, sort of cowardly, having done both, is the one where you're dominating and you're. You
mean you're afraid to be that, or it's more fearful to be?
No, it's more fear. You're in a more fearful place. When you're doing that thing.
I don't know, because I've been the toxic feminine version,
and that's very fearful.
It's victim oriented usually. I mean, I guess the toxic masculine is victim oriented too, but it's sort of lashing out from the victim.
Yeah, well, what I came to realize, and I see it now really clearly, and I don't know if anybody, I see it really clearly, is when I don't want to hear information from somebody, when I'm afraid of the outcome of a conversation, I dominate the conversation and talk over it. This is how this is going to go. No, because I'm, and so it seems as though I have this really clear-cut, dominating, decisive thing, but really I'm super, and so there's where the male and female sort of argument goes. Because the guy is like, I'm so afraid of what you're going to say or leave or thing. So, and the girl is just like, oh my God, he's just railroading me.
Yeah.
Or the male and the female, the masculine and feminine
assertive,
energies.
Passive. Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah, whatever. It doesn't even matter because it's a lot of times a business situation or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I actually noticed that in some recent inner work I was doing, as I sort of brought some awareness to balancing my masculine feminine energies, that it led to some real direct manifestation. And that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I had never really thought of it, like literally being able to balance that. If you like, for example, in my particular case, I was balancing and kind of bringing in a little bit my masculine energy in a particular situation in my life in general. And as I did that, I mean, I could really feel, I was, dealing with it in like a practice, a meditative practice, and could feel that if I brought that into balance a little bit, then I leave room for other people to do their part, and I can actually receive more too. And therefore, if I'm able to be a little bit more balanced, then I can create other things and like direct the energy in other areas rather than being, again, like out of balance, like over servicing one area and then under servicing another. Does that make sense? It's almost like a vacuum isn't exactly right, but it does create a little bit of a vacuum for the other person to be able to fill in, or other people, the field even.
Wow. Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I just wonder how that happens. I mean, like, what's the technical, meaning you said I meditated on that, or I thought about it. What does that mean?
Well, I was in meditation, and so I started with...
How do you reel it in? I mean, like, sometimes awareness for me can be worse. Like I'm aware I'm doing something, and then I just start, and I can't, and then it's even more... So how did you reel that in?
It's okay. So, I mean,
the masculine energy.
What I did was I was going into meditation with an intention to, let's say, create some new situation. Okay. So as I was going in with this intention, I want to create this new situation, or is there anything, is there any kind of holdout for me being able to create this particular situation, like an event or, a part of my career or something. And as I felt into where the energy didn't feel like it was really flowing, I kind of got right in there and I was like, okay, what is that? So that's what I mean. So I stayed in that energy where there was either like a feeling of resistance, a feeling of fear. So you can, like, in that area, like, what am I afraid of then? So what is it that I'm afraid of? And if the answer is, well, I won't be able to survive if I do what I love. You know what I mean? Oh, okay. So what is that? Where did that come from? What does that feel like? And as I keep feeling into what that feels like, I start to recognize my mother and her behaviors. Why did my mother create that in her life? And why did I inherit that from my mother? So you see, I kept going back into it and recognizing that for me, like, some of holding the, like, deepening the awareness was observing my mother in the things that she did. Actually, literally, I had to go and, like, kind of look at my mother's past and recognize how she created her patterns.
Yeah.
Because it's easy for me to observe because, you know what I mean? Like, I know her story and I'm mirroring it in some ways. And, like, just being like, okay, so the things she's responding to, which I am now responding to, are just not true. And so they don't make sense. And as the things start to, as you recognize, you hold that awareness long enough that it doesn't make sense, then it goes away. So what am I afraid of? And if the answer is, if I do what I like, I will be rejected from the world. I mean, you can probably say, well, that's nonsense because I'm good at what I like. So when I do something that I'm good at, people actually like me more. So the world will receive me better. You know what I mean? Like, you can kind of hold,
funny
that's
how,
what I say, awareness. Like,
you
really
always,
bringing the light into it.
You always love hanging out with somebody who's doing what they love.
Yes.
And I have done what I love and done things I really didn't love. Mm-hmm. And I just know that reaction, it's just, there's light around that person. Yes. You're with somebody and you want to hear about what they're doing. And it doesn't matter if they're working at 7-Eleven or they are writing a screenplay. Like, either way, you're like, this person has something to... has something going on, and obviously that's enviable and an easy thing to sort of think. But I think that your answer, I mean, your through line, which is manifesting, I think that is sort of how I have that, like, it's a trick that I sort of do, but I didn't realize that I will be like, if I really think about what's this uncomfortable feeling, I also have an uncomfortable feeling right now about work. Like, what is it? What am I going to do next? You know? I'm good at what I do, but I don't love what I'm good at.
Right now, it's just one of the things. But see, that is a kind of, it's a signpost. It doesn't mean it's the only thing you're good at. It doesn't have to be the only thing you're good at. Yeah. And it's something, it's what you became good at until you, and it was like, just think about the self-actualization. It helped you to actualize. Yeah. So now you can hack that experience to create the new one. Yeah. And thank God we never stopped creating.
I'm so grateful for that feeling of accomplishment. I've been working a lot on that feeling, accomplishment, like in those moments that I have.
And that's part of the reason that
staying in that feeling,
because accomplishment helps you to, like, accomplishment is something that is basically in the past, but it's something that you can prove to your, even, like, you want to say, your ego mind, that there's a reason to trust the higher mind. look, there's an accomplishment, so we can move forward with
Right.
this process. I feel like it's a negotiation. When you can negotiate between the higher mind and the ego mind, then you actually come into neutral, and that's the position of power.
What I've realized more and more as I talk to people, especially like people in my family, people who are struggling with like those were the days feelings. I think a lot of people like end up in nostalgia, especially at my age, right? Like everybody's like, oh, I was so in my 30s or in my 20s, I was nailing it, or the kids were little, life was so good. And I'm finding it helpful to stay in keep with me the moments of failures and the moments, the downtimes. No, really, not like to think, but because...
Not like you have resonance with them or they're in a painful way.
No, but so I can return to them and be like, okay, my 20s were great, but X, Y, Z happened. This was a tough time. Like the kids were little, I think, or whatever. And so that it helps me day to day now where I'm like, oh, like, you know.
Oh, to observe the accomplishments.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what you mean.
That's a yin and yang moment, isn't it?
I did that this morning, actually. That's so funny that you say that, but we're always like telepathic. I woke up this morning whenever I wanted to, which happened to be 7:15 this morning.
Ooh, what a rock star.
Shut up. You called me yesterday and said, is it 8 a.m. already? Half the day's gone. I was like, yeah, Betty. It's time for your warm milk and nap. He literally did.
So sad.
So don't tease
I
me.
used to go to bed at 8 a.m. Now I'm like done with my day by 8 a.m. It's true.
So
okay.
Anyway, I woke up at 7:15 and that was kind of my first thought was, I get to wake up whenever I want, because like in my 20s especially, actually it was just so funny. In my teens and 20s, because in your teens, you go to school.
Right.
And
occasionally.
I also did like school government and stuff, so I had 0 periods. So I had to get up at 5 a.m. every day of high school, and it was painful. Why are you not listening to me?
I'm just busy now.
He's texting.
You know, and I got to hook up later, so we're gonna.
So anyway, I did that all through my teens, and then in my 20s, I had a job where I had to get up at like 5 a.m. And then at some point in my 20s, I shifted to like hospitality, and then I had to stay up until 4 a.m. And that also I hated. I hated that. I hated staying up until 4 a.m. because I can't sleep very late into the day. So it was like a super swing of the pendulum. And then by the time I got to my mid-late 30s, suddenly I shifted to, work situations that were much more aligned with me and my creativity and for me to be able to manage my schedule. And it's just now stayed that I can wake up whenever I want. Every now and again, of course, I have to catch a flight that's international or there's an appointment that's early and, but it's 99.9% of the time, I just go to sleep when I want and I just wake up when I want.
That would be
the
a good ad
finds
for
me.
Not having kids, first of all. Let's just, anyone who's got kids out there is like, fuck you.
I don't know how to help you.
My kids are almost grown and I still have to get up with them all the time.
I know. I don't know how to help you with that.
Yes, because he doesn't even, like, you're going back to your teens. I have teenagers, and that memes I have to get up with them, drag their lazy asses out of bed.
But I have to say, that shit is the reason that my ovaries are like, no, we don't want to listening.
They are taking
Everybody
care of
says
you
stop sleeping.
They are taking care of you.
My ovaries?
We want you to sleep more.
I'm going to, I kind of figure that when I'm 50, I'm just going to start collecting kids and animals. I feel like the 50-year-old Tricia could just adopt a 12-year-old. And by the way, then that 12-year-old could take care of all the sheep and dogs and all of the other runt animals that I've collected on my farm and commune.
Oh, God.
I'm just going to adopt a workforce.
This is like an episode of Cops happening for sure. We're going to go over there and they're like, you can't have a pig and a mule in this apartment.
It's not going to be an apartment. It's going to be a saggy-tittied commune.
Oh, God. They're going to be like, whose kids are these? Where'd you find these kids? Bring them back.
That's what I mean. Well, I'll probably be, some of them might be your grandchildren, so be grateful.
Shut your mouth. Hush your mouth. Oh, Jesus. Can you imagine?
I'm a great aunt. That's like being a grandmother.
It truly is.
Yeah.
We used to, I always talk about my Uncle Jimmy. Me and my sister one time were talking about like something, and I was like, oh my God, because we were like, we're Uncle Jimmy and Aunt Virginia, who were like my great aunt.
Jimmy and Ginny?
Jimmy and Virginia.
But
and they were just
Ginny
like my
is,
old aunt and uncle that I did not want to be. But now I seem to reference all the time. He was my hero.
So, all right. So that's what I did. So like I said, I balanced that energy a little bit, and it really did like pull in this kind of, I don't know, it just balanced everything in me. And it took a good long session for me to do that, because I was really going down the rabbit hole and sitting with uncomfortable energies until they were no longer uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it felt really great afterward, because, well, like you were saying, when you're mindful of something or you have awareness of what you're doing, it creates more pain for you or something. You said something like that.
Oh, no, when I'm mindful of a bad sort of emotional habit.
Oh, okay.
You know, like where I ping something, if I don't address it or really walk through it, it doesn't dissipate it.
No.
So
if you don't address it,
that's
one
of the big things.
That's literally not bringing awareness to it then.
Yeah, right? Because you're mindful. Well, no, but I mean, like, awareness and action are two different things. And I know that in the beginning of this journey for me, like getting to think about TM and think about, you know, like all the things that I was trying to do, there was a lot of awareness, but I did not have a lot of tools or actions, which creates inertia. Well, it creates this overwhelming wall of here's all my problems.
Well, I'll
here's
give you
all the
some
things
tools.
that could fix them.
Really easily is that you could do a guided meditation, but after the guidance ends, just sit for a while with the silence. It'll prime you to be able to do your own introspection and, and hold your own presence.
Well, I like what you're saying about, well, first of all, in terms of masculine and feminine energies, having a passive moment and allowing your own negative sort of tirade to happen and hearing it and listening to it. That's what I feel like I do now. I sort of listen to that feeling of like, okay, what is this fear? And I just this week had to, like, you know, like career-wise, I'm trying to figure out how to do what the next move is, and I'm super happy with what I've been able to do, grateful for it, but you know, there's always like, I want more, I would like to be more fulfilled. And what is that fear? And there was a lot of fear in it, so I had to sit with it, and there was a palpable shift once I got to that. And I think that's what I'd say 2 or 3 years ago, I couldn't find that shift. I would get real in touch with the fear and be like, okay.
But that's what I'm saying. You wouldn't bring more awareness to it. I totally know what you mean.
Yeah.
And that's actually stopping before you've actually given it awareness. You start to run away.
Yes.
And so that's what I was saying. I spent a lot of
get a massage, go get a facial,
I guess
do something aesthetic or consumer to cover up that feeling.
To run away from it. And so that's literally
drink a bottle of scotch.
That's what I did.
Not a bad idea.
Over a few days ago, and as I said, I was going deeper into like family trauma and what I was holding in my field and even in my body. And I mean, I did things like I looked at where there were abusers and I sat with those acts and those people until it's like, it seems impossible, but I sat with it until I could feel, I understood it, at least to where what didn't feel icky anymore. And it's really hard to not feel icky about people who abuse children and stuff like that. Oh yeah. But I did, because I was like, well, if it's in there, if it's resonating or dissonating, which is not really a word, but if if I have a kind of dissonant feeling about it, I know it, and I'm having that kind of energy with it, well, it's already in me. I'm in a state of being injured. So there's no more injury to cause unless I just let it be. You know what I mean? Like that happened in the past. I like
that term. I like the way you phrase that. I have never heard that. In a state of being injured.
Mm-hmm. I'm not going to.
That means you're just, that injury is happening every time you're.
Every time you're ignoring it, even if you're not consciously thinking of it. It's in your subconscious, it's in your unconscious, and so it stays in a state of injury. So people who sometimes are fearful of doing inner work because they have to go in and pay attention to the things that are painful.
Yeah.
Being able to pay it true attention, give it the true comfort that it needs, is actually, it just releases it. You're not re-injuring yourself. You are releasing the injury. You're already injured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So what's there to be afraid of? I used to, and I know I use that term a lot. Like the shoe has dropped.
Yes.
Like whatever the thing you're afraid of happening, like dive into the wave.
Yeah.
Like the shoe has dropped.
Not only that, but obviously we have patterns of things that we do ignore, things that are in our experience that are painful, that we don't want to look at. Well, we will then, actually attract another event to match it in order for us. It just keeps showing us, go look at it. So we actually kind of can re-injure ourselves. It's typically like more mellow because we kind of are chipping away at things all the time, whether we know we are or not. What are you laughing at?
I don't know. I'm just laughing because I'm laughing because there's so much of the, I don't know if everybody's sort of existential experience is as funny as mine. because I don't know if it's meaning their guides, their spirits, their thing. I mean, like, I just get slapped in the face, and I mean, constantly by a pot. I've been like, if I get aware of something, like, I'll literally be like, I know, I'm being mindful, fuck it. Like, because it's like, or if there's a personality trait I don't like about myself, like I'm an awareness of something that's happened, or something I'm feeling in victim, like something's happening to me, somebody's really drawing all the life's blood out of my soul. I just see it all day long, everywhere. Literally in like a squirrel taking the other squirrel's nut and leaving the other one hungry. Like, it's everywhere. It's like two clouds come along and one gloms onto the other one and pulls all the color out of it, and the sun disappears. Like,
pulls all the color out of it.
I am such a ham-fisted spiritual person that, like, everything is just like, or I like go to a Buddhist temple and Buddha's like, like I get no gray area fucking signs from the universe ever. It's all just like full on like super slapstick. Does everybody have that?
I don't know. I do too. Brian always says I'm all or nothing. Yeah.
I just don't, but mine's kind of funny. I'm always like, yeah, I know, I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, totally.
And having and that's not to say that I am walking around like, oh, this is cool, I'm fine with that, but I'm getting better.
Well, so I'm sure that you have noticed yourself balancing that passive and assertive energy. I think that the most current position, that contract that you just had, he just finished a job. He's like a consultant, so he finished a particular project. Yeah. And I feel like you did a really good, like very consciously were balancing that. Like, you were very assertive sometimes in order to take care of your client, but then you also were very passive in order to receive what they needed you to, like, to be able to receive their investment into it, that you could then later execute it.
Yes. And I think that I learned a lot, and somebody said something to me that I work with as well about how frequently people are bringing personal relationships, literally with their parents, their children, their thing, into the business. And I had to, this was one of the last, with each client now I get to set up the terms of how it works. And everyone does. You set up the terms. If you get a job at McDonald's, you're setting up the terms of employment according to, you have seen them and set them up in your own thing. And most people, I had always set it up so that it was a fight or flight situation. It was always going to be like, I win or I'm fucking out of here, and I just don't know the difference. So once I saw that acquiescing, like allowing somebody to take ownership of their accomplishments, those kind of moments were hard for me. I am not somebody who's passive. So I think that my idea is super great, or I really, really altruistically want the business to succeed my way. Absolutely.
That's altruistically my way.
Yes.
I don't think that's how this
What is best for you is my way. 100%. And I had it
I did it altruistically my way.
I don't even know if I fully understand what the word altruistic means.
You wouldn't.
No, it's Greek. Certain words are just like.
Do you really not know what altruism is?
I do.
Okay.
Sort of. But I mean, in here. Right? Yeah. Like, I'm here altruistically for you.
There are
on the planet.
Yes, you're welcome is basically.
It's like my thing. Anyway, yes, that was a great way for me to try it. And here's the thing. That's, here's what's lucky. I'm a consultant, right? I pop in and out of locations and I open places. This was not much of a pop in and out, but I was in and out over a long period of time. But what's great about that, I set that up sort of non-committally because I knew that my limitations with patients, with people, and also the restaurant and bar business and everything, and not drinking and all that stuff. But with this one, it was really valuable for me I realized I wasn't going to learn the lessons in my relationships, which were lifetime and important to me, because I was continuing to railroad and things, and especially since I have teenage kids who it's not working.
Railroading doesn't work with teenagers.
Zero.
No.
It's not working in any of my ex-wife, my family. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And it did for a long time.
Well,
there's nothing wrong with that. It's just don't.
Did it though, or were you just in your disease and so you didn't really care? Like, nothing was really working.
I wasn't always in my disease. I mean, I was always an alcoholic, but I wasn't always in my disease when. No, it did work, in meaning I reached the effect that I wanted.
Okay.
So yes.
But is that whole? Did you reach an effect that you wanted holistically, or was it more like isolated in this particular area for this moment, for this instant gratification?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%.
Okay.
And who can know that? Yeah, but who can know that at whatever different ages of your life, you know? Who can know? You don't know what you don't know, you know?
Well, yeah, you don't have, I mean, I don't know. I know, I remember just being so frustrated. Like, I feel, you know, I'm following everyone's instructions. Why aren't things starting to work for me? Why doesn't anyone like me or promote me or give me more chances and everything? But that's, again, that toxic femininity, I think, because of being such a victim, you know? And I did kind of grow up with railroading kind of narcissist, where, like you were saying, you can't just like run over your kids. The only way you could do that is by absolute force, because they have a very powerful will as they're trying to individuate. And so you can just break their spirit, or you could break their bones. Those are kind of the options to be able to control them with, you know, that pure.
That's funny. I just had lunch with my son, who's 23 today, who is a very, very powerful, quiet man. You know what I mean?
Yes, but he's a life path 3, which is all about communication. So I'm really curious how that's going to maybe manifest in different ways. I know he's a writer, and maybe that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that throat chakra is going to open up at some time.
I know. Right. Well, he's fascinating. He's a thing. He was an actor with me as a kid, and he's a fascinating, interesting guy. He's very reserved and soft-spoken. We used to call him, like, he was old when he was born, which was funny that his mom and I, who were both the youngest kids and big mouths and always just, I mean, like, you know, my ex-wife is not passive either. She's got a large mouth.
A large mouth. That's a funny way to say
it. That never stops running. Anyway, he's super quiet thing, but he has a very, very strong, and it's interesting when we talk about masculinity, femininity, or like in the general ways. He very much railroads as well and gets what he wants in a very different way.
In the
probably
family
more
too?
so than me. Yeah, from me. Like, even as a little kid, he really called the shots, like, as a thing, and less so now. Well, whatever. Like, I mean, I would throw, you know, like, huge fits and make that thing, but he really was just like a little rock. You couldn't. I used to call him the pit bull. You couldn't shift his focus. And even if you changed the terms of, you were like, you're grounded or you can't do something, he would, like, write his own narrative that he had won that scenario.
It's a gift. You off.
It did, because then you hadn't won. Because he didn't get that whole parental, like, did you learn your lesson? And he'd be like, no, that absolutely worked out perfectly.
What a
always.
jerk.
He could pull it off always, and he still does. So I'm like, why haven't you finished school? No, all this stuff. And he's like, this is exactly where I was headed. And I'm like, oh, that is so good. I've never had that up my sleeve. Yeah. I'm always like, go right to, like, you're right. I know that was a terrible idea.
But you just told me the other day that you gave him some corrections, and he was like, he said, I'm sorry and everything. Like, he was really sweet about it.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Interpersonally, he's a super sweet kid, and I love him a ton. Mm-hmm. All my kids have, like, a nice warm underbelly, you know what I mean? But he's a rock. And I'm not confused from where it came. Just like.
Well, one thing, I don't know why this maybe this is kind of related, I'm not sure, but it's just reminding me of a frustration I had with my mother, the way that she would handle things. We would have an argument, and then, like, and so we'd, have an argument, and, you're so mad, you just can't, and you're just stewing. Oh. And then, like, 5 minutes later, she would come and be like, we were friends and, like, nothing had happened. She's like, okay, you want to go to the store? And I'm like, no, we're mad at each other.
That's
like,
how I am.
Oh, it
I'm
made me
just like that.
I'm still so mad about it.
I'm like, now that we did that,
no.
I totally am. And I don't want it to screw up the day.
No,
so
that's such a dick
especially
move.
when I'm in relationships and stuff like that, I'm like, wait, we're still going to lunch, right? And I'll be like, you fucking asshole. And I'm like, divorce or no, we're still going to lunch, right? Because I was into that.
No,
that's all bets are off. I'm the same way. Or I'll be like, aren't we watching a movie? And the kids will be like, you just told me I was the biggest loser ever. And
Exactly.
I'll be like, so, no, we paid for the movie.
Yeah, no.
No?
Oh, that would drive me crazy.
That's it. Because I grew up in a house like that. We would burn the house down and then say grace and have dinner. Like, there was no way, you couldn't, like, then it'd be like, okay, well, whatever, like, is your hair going to stay like that for this show?
Is mine doing something for real?
No, I meant like in real life.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, that was a thing.
Show. Oh, because it was messed up. I get it.
That applies to my family, unfortunately, too. There was always a show. A shit show.
Yeah. Were you always performing for your family? Like literally, did you do like little things? Like,
I guess so. My family are really funny.
yeah. Well, mine is too, actually.
Yeah, I bet. Like my family were really funny. So like, yeah, we sat around the dinner table, and it's like no matter what else was going on, we had a fascinating conversation, and whoever got the spotlight was telling the best story.
Yeah.
And we all railroad over each other.
Yeah.
Like, so my family, we don't have any problem with talking over each other. My kids, everyone else in normal world, I guess, do. But like, there was no end of sentence, new person talking. It was like, you're boring, next, like thing. It was like the Gong Show in a constant round robin. So if you lost the crowd, bing, next person, like, and then it was like, today I ran into my coach and he looks like a,
We're mostly though a bit more like, we're more sarcastic and dry. There's lots of like busting out in gales of laughter, but I think part of the reason why it became sarcastic and dry is because it was always my mom and my sisters and me against the male because my father was violent and everything. So it was always like coping, and so we were like slyly like making fun of the drunken, almost like violent person in the corner.
So super passive aggressive comedy.
Oh, so passive aggressive.
Which it all is. I
so
suppose.
passive
yeah,
aggressive.
we would do that. Me and my sisters would gang up on my parents.
Yeah,
who were
that's
really
fun.
like kids. My parents were teenage parents when they had us. And they were like little kids. So me and my sisters we were mean as snakes, me and my sisters. And we were like, ding, 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 3 in a row. And we would turn on them.
Is Leslie close in age too?
Yeah, Leslie's 3 years older than me. Patty's in the middle, and I'm the youngest.
Oh, okay.
So we would just lay onto my parents, who were good, who provided plenty of comedy.
Yeah.
But we would just lay into them. My parents. And there's nothing, I don't know this is what I love about my kids too, because they already do it to me. There's nothing, I mean, I'm sure you had like we just had International Sibling Day yesterday. Did you see
I
that?
think I saw that. Yeah.
I love that. And there is only your siblings can have the exact same sense of humor as you.
Oh, I know. And it's so weird because I don't really spend time. I don't see my sisters very much or even talk to them that much. But when like Brian, my husband, met, I think the first time he met 2 of my sisters at the same time. And it was a good 5 or 6 years into us being together. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And yeah, it's really funny because you just kind of pick up right back where you left off.
Oh, yeah.
But they're
and
also
the kids get freaked out by me and my sisters being together.
Oh, really? Because you're so similar?
We talk the same.
Right.
And there's a lot of one-word whole stories built into one word.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like we have all these, like just one word that tells the whole story about a dress my sister had in 2nd grade.
Yeah.
And there's a whole thing, and we were all cracking up laughing.
Yeah. Well, Brian and I have that too. I mean, we've been together almost 15 years. So
yeah.
Like,
I think it's like what you like about your spouse or the person that you pick as opposed to your sibling is that they have some different spins on things, and different takes on things.
Because they come from a different family of different kind of sarcasm.
And you're like, like you really admire. You're like, oh, my wife had like her family are all Norwegian. I used to actually really like all that part of her because she had a different weird like animal comedy was a big thing in the kids' mom's family.
Animal comedy.
Yeah,
what
like
do you mean?
monkeys talking in movies was like super funny for them. But it was cute. It was like corny.
I'm like, what's animal comedy?
They like animal comedy, like the mule talking in that Mr. Ed, like kind of thing. And I'd be like, I don't get this. What's happening? Like we liked Monty Python in my family.
Yeah.
Like.
My sisters, well, my sisters did too. Is so the father was always, like over there dangerous, terrible, yeah. But my sisters, because we're all
he was in the burning bed.
Yes, exactly. My sisters added all these boyfriends, husbands. All these husbands. I had all these brothers-in-law who came in on our side, and so they were like super sarcastic.
Oh, good.
So I got all these brothers that were like my sisters, and it was pretty fun.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you work it out. I mean, there's always a lot of comedy. I mean, I think most funny people got it from their family. I don't think some person who's funny like just came out of like a super dry, like buttoned up family with no comedy in it.
No, yeah.
Nobody learns that.
Well,
because it really is like survival of the fittest in a funny house.
I think there are some people who are so like the black sheep or the white. I'm actually the white sheep of my family. So the black sheep of their family that they do just kind of come out different, and so they're creating that on their own. They have their own quiet sarcasm. There are quite a few stand-ups I feel like I can kind of sense that energy.
Yeah.
They were outcasts a little bit in their family. They weren't like their parents and or siblings.
Yeah, and they were like a little weird.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe they were even introverted, much more introverted, because they had no outlet inside the home for their comedy, like for what they were observing. It's like that observational kind of comedy. You know what I mean? Like they're just sitting, when you're just sitting there going,
I have this
happening?
like just as we're talking about this and then like yin and yang of the conversation, like right, and the thing. I like throughout my adult life, I have constantly flirted with the idea of taking like a vow of silence.
I couldn't.
Yeah, a vow of silence.
People are like, I did a 9-day silent meditation retreat. And I'm like, that's like saying I did a 9-day no water, no air retreat. I don't know how to do that.
I'm tempted to do it just because I think that it would piss people off so badly.
How?
I would just be inside like...
Your face, the tone of voice of your face.
I'm going to go, in fact, I'm going to take my trip home to Boston. I'm just shouting this out to my family right now. And I'm going to do a 9-day vow of silence through it. Because they're always bitching about me, like talking and bullshitting and all this stuff. So I'm going to come home and not talk. And just be like, it would infuriate my family. Like day 2, somebody would unravel like wrapped up in the nut house like crazy. Like my family can't jive with silence. But we'll see. Maybe they'd be all into it.
You know what I have to do?
Or my children would flip out too.
I have to bring in. I have this tape. It's a cassette tape, and it says Texas 1985. And it's when I had a tape recorder. Then I was walking around my family and interviewing them and just recording things, and it's so fun. And it's got all this really awesome. I have to get Brian and I need to transfer it onto digital because I don't know how long this little film, tape is going to last. But it's so funny because it's a little version of me with a little voice, but I have a really thick Texas accent.
Yeah.
And it's really dark. Like the things, like for example, the Christmas. It's like Christmas was when I got the tape recorder, and I'm going around and I'm interviewing my family, and I'm pretending like I'm a like field consultant, and I'm like, here we are at the Alley house, and we are having Christmas Day. Mother Allie, what are you doing today on Christmas? And I'm like, it's cute. So cute. And my mother is like playing along and like, oh, hello, child, and like being silly and everything.
You're doing it on the road.
I'm on the beat, yeah. And then I go to my sister. My sister's name is Pam. She was the one who's closest to me in age, so of course, really, like sibling and she was super annoyed with me. And I'm 6 years younger than her. And I was like, Pam Allie, what did you get for Christmas? And she's like, bah humbug. Just trying to ruin my thing. Yeah. Literally said bah humbug. So she's being kind of sweet. She didn't say anything too rude. And then you go in the living room and I'm like, Father Allie is watching TV. Father Allie, and he interrupts me. He goes, God damn it, baby Trish. Don't call me father. I'm daddy. Because he thought it was pretentious. So I was like, I just shift gears like right on a dime. I go, Daddy Allie is watching TV. Daddy Allie, what are you watching? And he goes, Divorce Court. On Christmas Day. I'm like, you can't write this shit. Literally.
He's like, oh,
he's getting tips.
Divorce court. That's excellent. That's like his lifestyles of the rich and famous.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I could get that someday. I love that.
Kurt likes it.
I'm gonna get that a swimming pool and a nice tight divorce.
I'm going to bring it in. And then the other thing that's kind of cute is later that day, there was like I was recording a commercial playing on TV, and it was a commercial of strawberry yogurt, I think. And it was like a woman doing a French accent. She was going strawberries and like whatever. And I mimic it. And then I go, that's such a fake accent.
Oh.
And I hit stop.
That's such a fake accent.
And I have the thickest accent when I say it. It's hilarious.
Oh. I forgot about that. We had like home movies of recordings.
You must have had a different accent, right?
I did. I had a Boston accent.
But it was probably a bit more sophisticated.
Yeah,
more
we were
sophisticated.
outside in
Wasn't
the
it
suburbs.
Southie? You weren't
No.
Southie.
No, we weren't. So I was out in the suburbs, but Massachusetts has a really. My parents both had accents that changed as they got older.
And when you go back, do you sort of
sometimes when I
gravitate
worked in
toward it?
bars, in Boston, I sounded a little bit like that.
But recently, 3 years ago when you were
No,
living there,
I didn't pick it up as
you
an
didn't pick it up.
adult. No.
But doesn't it feel like I do? A little bit, not entirely. A little bit, so much so that Brian couldn't tell when we went to visit that until
It
he watched
seeped in.
video later. He couldn't tell. It seemed normal because it's just really
Do you
kind of
say?
speaking
Well, you
of dialect.
say y'all here and there.
Yeah, I
now.
say y'all because it.
I
just
say
makes
y'all
sense.
here and there.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly not from the South, but it works for some.
No,
words.
it's all the vowels and everything.
I guess when I scream, when I get super mad,
Yeah.
and when I used to get super drunk, my accent would come out more.
Well, mine's mostly when I'm tired because that was, for example, I literally am watching, I'm over articulating all the time. Like saying tired right now, it's a lot of work. I think that's why I stay thin.
It's all right. Yeah, because you haven't articulated. I didn't naturally have R's, although I moved here when I was 19. So like you.
Well, I moved here when I was 14.
Yeah, okay.
But that's a critical age, actually. It's somewhere around 12, 13, 14, where it's more difficult to shift accents and to learn new languages. It's something,
Really?
in the cognitive development.
I was here about 3 days and had that Boston accent. And like, first of all, I remember my dialect coach at acting school here in Pasadena was like, "You sound like a tin can kicking down an alley. You will never play anything but inmates and juvenile delinquents." And that was me. And I was from out. I mean, I was not that I was in school, but I lost it in about 6 weeks. I
lost it fast too.
I took an intensive dialect thing.
Well, I
which was
lost it fast.
fascinating.
I was in 8th grade, but I lost it. Well, so I moved to Northern California when I was like 13, but I lost it fast so much. I remember that I could benchmark that I lost it fast because I know about part of the way through the school year, I was like, the teacher had given us something to write, and I said, "What's the title?" And I said, "Title." And one of my friends was like,
"Insurance
title?
If you can get somebody from the
Title?
South to say insurance or the Midwest, that's the way you always can figure out what's happening.
From the South?
If they say insurance.
Insurance.
You don't say insurance?
No, I say insurance.
You do, right? There's
That's how I say it.
insurance. It's definitely Ohio and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
so that's different.
Insurance.
That's not South,
And there's different stress on certain words. Yeah, Boston couldn't have been more difficult to sort of like take out. And like I said, it pops out here and there. And I sometimes hear little ticks in my kids that they wouldn't
Yeah.
say that they wouldn't say here in California.
Right.
But their mom's from California, and she had a total California accent.
But they still just kind of, it's seeped
I
in.
scream in Boston. So when they say like
Bostonian.
douchebag, there's a real spin on it. You know, because I feel like it's more of bang. In Boston, it has a good, mean, hard accent.
Yeah.
And so just the accent itself, even when you're saying "I love you," it sounds kind of mean. So if you're saying "I am gonna gut you like a fucking fish," it gets super clear.
It's so weird because your intonation changes.
Yeah.
Your vocal tone changes.
Yeah, you come down in here. It's also hard.
It's up in here. Yes, hooked in as well.
Super hard, and it's loud.
Yeah. Do you have this experience where there are words that you keep unearthing that you don't use as much, and so you haven't redeemed them from the accent? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, drawer. I can't say drawer because I say draw. So all my adult life, I had to say drawer. Like
That's just drawer.
drawer.
Mine actually sounds a little bit-
mirror.
Yeah, mirror is.
Because we say draw and mirror.
We said mirror too,
Mirror.
which is weird.
Yeah.
What was it?
Drawer. There's just too much happening right there.
Recently, I went to say pinch, and I said pinch because I don't say pinch as much in my adult life as I did when I was talking about Mama Kim's pinching me. You know what I mean? Like I said pinch a lot more when I was in my life. So-
But it's also all those spins. You had a particular like sort of East Texas thing, right? Was that what it was? It's
no,
like
we're-
that.
we're west.
Kim.
a little bit more west.
Like you add all kinds
I mean,
of
sorry,
vowels.
No, you're right. We are east.
You
duh.
add vowels
Diphthongs.
to things.
You add diphthongs.
Ding, 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 ding.
And then you
Like-
remove them from other places. So yeah, like my sister's name is Kim. If I
but it's
knew,
just Kim.
If it's spelled the way it's spelled, yeah, in California, everyone that I meet with that
Kim.
name is Kim. But my sister's name is Kim.
With a Y-E. It's like you spell it like Keyum.
Kim.
Keyum.
No, it's not Kiyum. It's Kim.
Well, if you really dragged it out, it would be.
Kim.
There's a lot of it. Kiyum. There's
Kim.
no Y in
and
there.
I have another sister named Pam.
Payum. There's a Y in there too.
And then what do you put on your salad? Oil.
Oh Lord.
So for some reason you removed the diphthong in that one.
I have a friend of mine, Jenny Adams. We have this fantasy that I'm gonna retire and go down to like Alabama and just live in like an antebellum mansion, and I'm just gonna like drink in a seersucker suit on the front lawn, and I'm just gonna get like
I think some of that was racist.
all of it. Why? What was that? Seersucker suit's not racist.
No, I know. I don't know.
Just the accent.
Yeah,
just a white cracker on a big front lawn.
Just your tone. It was a microaggression. It was a micro racist. I know. We all knew.
Mostly, there was
the way
no
that your eyebrows, they were racist.
They were racist. Well, I'm just gonna do that.
All right. Well, I don't know how we got into culture.
Yes, we went nowhere near there. I don't. Right? Is there a masculine and feminine spin on accents?
No, I think it was just fun.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, maybe I'll add it.
Cheerio.
I'll add it to the show notes. All right. Well, everyone, we are.
Was that it? Did we do it?
We're just about out of time. Yeah.
Fuck, we covered nothing.
But I want to remind you that you can watch this live whenever we feel like doing it live, which.
We really have to get a time now. Hey,
it's Thursdays at 7 p.m. Pacific. We just a couple weeks ago done them at 3.
When we look at a clock, it just is a yin and a yang that's constantly moving and changing.
Yeah. But you can watch it live streamed on YouTube, and so go find us on YouTube at Enlightened AF Pod.
I like our color scheme going on here right now.
Like, subscribe, comment, and share. I'm trying to do the business.
God, I'd fuck us.
And that's going to do it. We'll see you next week, 7 p.m. on Thursday. Bye.
Bye.